Our moderator this evening is Crystal Shoji, local resident, and she is going to introduce the candidates, and we're on our way.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Glad to see everybody out. I'll tell a little bit about how we're going to do things up here and not take too much time doing it. So I'm going to start on my left with the first question, and then it'll go to the right. Then the next question is going to start at the right and go to the left. So you will keep alternating like that, so everybody doesn't get all the first questions the first time. They each get to hear some of what the other person is saying, half the time. So this is Jessica Engelke on the right, of course, and Harry Haines on the left. And it looks to me like we have about 37 minutes scheduled for doing this particular part of the program. That's about 18 minutes each for each candidate to talk, and if everybody took 2 minutes, that would be 8 or 9 minutes. So that's kind of how it's going to be. There's questions taken from the audience over here, and they'll be brought to me, and we may use some of these, or I have some on a list also. I will introduce the two candidates, some short bios. So Jessica Engelke holds an MBA in Human Resource Management and is business professor at SWAC. In 2020, she was elected mayor, and before that, she was the 2017 Chamber President, Bay Area Chamber of Commerce. She is currently the President-elect of the League of Oregon Cities. Thank you for being here, Jessica. Harry Haines is a manager in the Oregon Coast region for Ziply Fiber and has worked as a lineman, lead equipment operator, and truck driver. He has not previously served in public office. And how long have you lived here?
Altogether, about 4 years.
Okay, thank you. So we will begin with the candidates. And did I already say I was going to start here? I said I was going to start here, didn't I?
I'm not sure.
Well, I'll start here.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to say something and then change it. So the first question is...
2-minute opening statements?
2 minutes.
Oh, okay, 2 minutes for each of you. Okay, you go ahead.
Okay. So I'm Harry Haines. The reason I'm running for mayor is I would like to see the city move forward and try and make things work a little better. Not that anybody's doing anything wrong, or I just have some different ideas on how to move the city forward. And I would really like to get the people of the city involved more in making decisions and just being informed on what's going on. And so we both want to make the city better. We all want to make the city better. So that is my goal.
Thank you. Jessica.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you so much to the League of Women Voters for having us here tonight. I recently spoke at a chamber forum along with my opponent, and I was telling the story about why I got involved with the city and why I ran for mayor. And I spoke about how I wanted to be a good example for my daughters and how I wanted to be a good example for my students and just really give back to the community that I grew up in. And it's something that's very near and dear to my heart. And it's all of those things, but it's also so much more. One of the reasons why I also ran was because I know that I have the skills and the abilities to continue to move the city forward. I have worked really hard with the staff over the last couple of years, and we identified some of the issues in our city, and one of them was trying to find long-term funding. So we have come up with ways to help with our general fund, and we've received almost $14 million in grants. So as a business professor, I understand how important the strategic planning and the thorough analysis of the city is. And so us being able to utilize those grants effectively has been able a way to us to continue to move the city forward. So we know we're probably going to talk here tonight about economic development, housing, all of the major issues that are facing North Bend. And so the things that we have been doing and putting in place over the last 4 years that I have been in office are something that we need to continue to move forward with. We have worked actively to listen to you and your needs, because really it's about you, the public, and what you want. What we've been hearing is safety is important, infrastructure is important, quality of life for the residents that live in North Bend is important. And so I'm here to say that we are able to continue to deliver those things. We've done wonderful things with these grants that we have received, including making sure that we have 18 sworn officers on staff. And that's just a few of the things that you're probably going to hear us talk about tonight. I love being your mayor. I got a couple more years left in me, and I'm ready to continue to bring North Bend to the future.
Okay, the first question is, Jessica, what experience do you have with managing budgets?
Okay. So quite a bit of experience that I have with managing budgets. As you mentioned earlier, I have an MBA, and I serve, well, I mean, for example, we can start with the City of North Bend budget. We have an incredible process where we do involve the public. I also am always actively looking for more people to join, by the way, and we go ahead and share that information out there with the city. That's over a $45 million budget, so we work through that with our budget committee and then approve that budget in each May. We follow the Oregon open meeting laws to make sure that we're continuing with that process in the proper manner. I've also been on several different budget committees. I am on several boards. One of them is the CCD. It's a Certified Development Company. That is an area where, as the chair, you have a lot of oversight with the budget. During COVID, I was the chair of that committee, and we were able to be a recipient of a lot of grants that went out into not only just North Bend, but our surrounding counties as well. I'm currently also the president-elect of the League of Oregon Cities. That's 241 cities that are under that. All of the cities in Oregon are part of the league, and I have quite a bit of budget experience there as well. And this is something that I have a thorough background in, and I'm happy to always sit down with anybody. In fact, when my opponent and I met, we talked about some of the budget issues facing North Bend, and that continues to be an open invitation to anyone here. I keep my budget book handy, and I'm always happy to go over that with anyone.
Harry, in particular, what experience do you have with managing budgets?
Well, being the manager of Zipway Fiber and building this fiber optic network, I've had to stay within a budget for the initial build, which is in town part of the build, and making sure that we're not going over the budget on any part of it, to make sure that we're able to supply the customers with a cheap internet product or inexpensive internet product. And then once we got that part done, then it was the budget getting from the main plant to the home, and making sure that stays in budget. Before I had this job, I was a lineman, and I had to make sure and stay within the budgets of the builds for each individual company. And so I had to know what each company was doing, because I was a contractor for those companies. And so every day that was part of my goal, to make sure that we were not overspending and staying within those guidelines.
Okay, next question. This is to you. What do you see as the most urgent priorities for the city of North Bend?
I think it's the sewer system and the streets. Those are my two priorities, and then the homeless issue. So the sewer system, I think it is something that we should have addressed years ago. And now we're coming up on this major problem of trying to figure out how to fund that. And I believe that we should really talk to the community and come up with ideas on how to do that. And the same thing with the streets. We need to come up with a solution now so that our children and grandchildren aren't stuck with this problem. The homeless issue, I believe that there's solutions out there, and we need to help people that want help first. Because there's so many of these people that are not prepared to move into a home. They don't even want to move into a home. They're happy with what they're doing, whether it's the drug problem or the just the fact that they're just happy being the way they are. But if we can help the ones who need help first, then we can probably solve 90% of the problem. The other thing with the sewer system is we need to just make sure that this bill that's out there now, it goes for eternity, where the bill just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So by the time my grandkids are old enough to be in a home, they're going to be paying $1,000 a month for a sewer bill. And I just don't agree with that.
Jessica?
The most urgent needs.
Yes, what do you see as the most urgent priorities for the city?
Okay. So yes, infrastructure funding is one of the top priorities, and I'll speak about that in a minute. Also, we need to continue to look at housing is an issue at every level, whether it's workforce housing, affordable housing, senior housing. And then also, we do have a serious issue with the chronically homeless. And, you know, I've said before in situations like this, we're having these discussions about these top needs, and it's 2 minutes. And I already know that I talk fast, but I'm going to go ahead and again continue to have that open invitation if somebody wants to have further information about this. With the homelessness, we definitely need to make sure that we are using the multi-pronged approach. And you will see that North Bend has been doing that. We are collaborating with Coos Bay, we are collaborating with the county, and we have a county-wide task force that we are making sure that we have all of the stakeholders at the table. And there's things that we've been able to implement. We were able to receive a grant to have a focused approach. We are nowhere near the solution, and it's very clear that this is not a North Bend problem, it's a national problem. With the infrastructure needs that we are facing, we are in a very serious situation with streets and with our wastewater. Our streets, it would take almost $70 million to bring our streets up to good repair. You do have some information out there. In fact, we sent some information out in the water bill about a ballot measure for a sewer rate increase. And this is something that every resident is going to need to take a look at and do their research and find out if they think this is a good fit. Because all the things that I just mentioned needs to have economic development. And for us to have economic development, to have housing, to have good paying jobs, to go ahead and raise that tax base, we need to have the infrastructure in place to do those things. So that's why taking a look at whether or not you would want to vote on this ballot measure would be extremely important.
I'm going to start the next question here. How can the city increase its stock of affordable and workforce housing?
Okay.
And along with that, if there should be adjustments made to North Bend's policies or priorities regarding vacation rentals, that you can tell us about your thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, I can start with the vacation rentals. This is something that the city of North Bend has already taken a look at. And there was a decision made by council to really make sure that we're monitoring how many vacation rentals come in and if it's cleaning up all of the housing market. We're not at that point yet. And off the top of my head, I believe we had decided as a council that 60 was going to be the top limit in the area. And it hasn't even met, I believe, 50% of that. So it is something to keep a close eye on because we want to make sure that the housing is for the people that are living here. I'm really very, very incredibly proud of some of the milestones that we have hit with housing. So specifically, the council worked with the URA, and the URA purchased, our Urban Renewal Agency purchased the annex. That is going to be specifically workforce housing. We lobbied our federal government and received $4 million in grants. And so when that is torn down, we'll be able to have workforce housing in there. We're also doing everything we can to bring all the stakeholders to the table. So we're working with a nonprofit organization. We're talking with Haines, and we're looking about other partnerships where we can leverage all of the stakeholders at the table to go ahead and look at some other opportunities for housing. We know we have some unique challenges here in North Bend, not a lot of land left, so ideas like the annex where you're building up and utilizing that space is incredibly important. We're blessed to be having the water on one side of this and Coos Bay on the other, but when it comes down to actually continuing to start putting in new subdivisions, there's just not there. We're also making sure that we're being good neighbors and partners. So for example, when the Oregon Housing Authority is working with the Bangor School project, we're making sure that the infrastructure and items are in place so that they can continue to work on those projects as well. We've got a couple other things in the pot too. City of Coos Bay has a project, you might have heard it out there in the community, called the Gloria Day project. And although it's not in North Bend, we're making sure that they are able to tap into our infrastructure as well and water lines.
Okay, to my left, the same question. How can the city increase its stock of affordable and workforce housing? And whether you want to comment on short-term vacation rentals.
Okay. Well, I don't believe that the city should be a landlord. I've never believed in that, and we're going to spend a ton of money to build these places. I think it would have been a better idea to get investors that were interested in doing that and not be using the city resources for that. I think it goes back to the sewer issues we have. We shouldn't be adding these big apartment complexes when we don't have a sewer system that's going to be able to sustain that. And by everything that I've heard and I've read and talking to different people, we do not have the sewer system to sustain that. So if we had investors that wanted to do that, that's what they do. And they would be willing to help with the sewer system to sustain their business. So.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next question, we'll start with you. Please discuss the respective roles of the mayor, city council, and city administrator as it should work in North Bend, and how you would ensure that these relationships are constructive and productive.
Well, I believe that it's the mayor's responsibility to run the meetings, make sure that everybody is doing things the way that the meeting is supposed to be, or the way things are supposed to be done. I believe the city administrator works at the pleasure of the city council and the mayor, and should not be running the meetings or interrupting in the meetings unless it's something that is important. Then they probably should have a sidebar and discuss that. The city council should make the decisions and give that to the city manager or administrator, and let the city administrator do what his job is supposed to be, and that is not running the city council.
Please discuss the respective roles of the mayor, city councilors, and city administrator, and how you ensure relationships are constructive and productive.
Thank you. Thank you. As the mayor, one of the things that you do, my opponent's correct, is to run the meetings. It's much more than that. It is making sure that you really are informed of a lot of different things that are going on. So I do want to have a moment of correction here. I've actually spoken with my opponent before about this. The city of North Bend is not landlords by any of these housing projects. We're partners, but I just want to make sure that I've made that clear once again, that we are not landlords in that situation. Besides running the meeting and reaching out to the public, it's finding out what's important to them, and how do we go ahead and move those initiatives forward. It's about having good relationships. It's about making sure that the businesses are being heard and we're meeting their needs. It's about making sure that we're relating to all generations, making sure that we're relating to all ages, and again, figuring out, are there other ways that we continue to get people involved? One of the other things that we have done in the last 4 years is to make sure that we have full access. So you can watch our meetings, they're streamed and they're put on YouTube. We have a robust social media page, but we also know not everybody enjoys social media or has access to that. So we make sure that things come out in the water bill when it's appropriate, flyers, so that there's print when needed. Besides what we put on social media, we'll also make sure that we're going to go ahead and put it on our website as well. So continuing to be the mayor's role, I believe, is continuing to be that voice for everybody in the city, not just what's happening on your street, not what's just happening on one side of the town, but making sure that we'll talk to everyone. I started a walk with the mayors, and you're all invited to the next one, which is October, I believe it's October 28th. It's a Monday, maybe that's 26th. It's on our website. And it's a time for you to have casual conversations with us too. So we know not everybody wants to sit at a council meeting every night, but it's one more opportunity to meet and chat.
Okay, we have a new question.
Okay.
To my right, Jessica. What are your plans for the many vacant buildings owned by urban renewal? And what are the challenges standing in the way of reuse of those buildings?
Yeah, so great question. I think that the Urban Renewal Agency, URAs, can be really complicated to understand. And so this is another opportunity which anybody wants to continue to look on our website. We have some videos posted on there and some information. And the idea of the URA is to eliminate light and to go ahead and to invest in a building. It's not meant to be landlords. These are very short-term situations where you can take a building that would normally sit, put money in it, fix it up, and then get it back on the tax rolls. So for example, the annex one has been going through the process. I wish it was moving a little bit quicker. Sometimes it gets a little bit frustrating because anybody who's been in economic development know that it takes time to come into fruition. And seeing that hopefully being torn down next year is going to be quite a delight. We'll get rid of that eyesore. We're going to go ahead, and so that one specifically will go ahead and be workforce housing. One of the other buildings that you may have seen is often people refer to it as the Chickarelli's building. When that family decided to leave the area, it came up for sale, and North Bend, as part of their strategic plan and economic development, had been looking for another restaurant and a brewery to come downtown North Bend. In economic development, you want a triangle of activity. We had a theater, we had another restaurant, and they wanted to build out from that. And so when this became on the market, the URA met and decided this would be a great opportunity to go in and fix it up. And I'm so glad that we did step in, because that building had quite a few issues in it that people hadn't even identified yet. So we were able to do that very responsibly, get an organ brewer in there, and then there's another building right next to it that's still being fixed up, and we'll be looking for other people to come in and open up a business and continue to add to downtown. And again, the idea is to get it back on the payrolls and not be long-term landlords.
Thank you. Same question. Harry, what are your plans for the many vacant buildings owned by urban renewal? What are the challenges for their reuse?
Well, again, we are, as a city, we are the landlords of these businesses, and I just can't agree with that. We need to get investors to purchase these buildings, and we could help with the urban renewal money to fix them up if we had investors in this. But to just spend money and then become a landlord, there's, like I said before, there's businesses out there that do that on a daily basis. The city has bigger problems that we need to deal with. The roads, the sewer, the homeless problems. We really need to address those problems and let somebody else that knows what they're doing deal with the buildings that are falling down or having problems, and help those people out and help them get, we're using tax dollars to do this. Anyway, so we may as well help those businesses make these buildings better and step away from the landlord part of it.
Okay, new question. This would be to you. Right?
I think
You just, yeah. You just did the other. Okay. Are there any parts of the city code that you have identified that would need revision? And if so, which ones and why?
Well, I think the main city code that needs to be revisited is the parking for the homeless people. The number I heard was we spent $3 million on the bottom of Virginia down there to beautify that. And then now people can't use it because the homeless are now living there. We are allowing the homeless to basically live wherever they want to. I know there's codes out there saying that they can stay in certain places at certain times, but since I've been running for mayor, I'm getting a lot of feedback from a lot of residents around the area, and I have addressed this, or I've taken it to the police department, where these people are still living in our parks. They're still living in areas where they shouldn't be. They're underneath the North Bend Bridge and the grassy area back there. And I understand that they want to be away from people, but they're bringing in huge amounts of trash. There's an area behind Kenmore Chevrolet that they have taken over, and that is a watershed. And it is just, I actually went down there and took a walk down in there, and it is absolutely filthy. And so we need to address those ordinances and enforce those ordinances and the code to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Are there any parts of the city code that you think need revision? And if so, which ones and why?
So I'll speak a little bit to the ordinance that my opponent is speaking about. It is an item that we look at on a regular basis. When we received a mandate from the state that we had to come up with an ordinance for where people can sleep, lie, and rest. And what we ended up doing is we listened to you and we asked what you wanted. And we had 3 town halls. One of them was during COVID and it was online, but we made sure that we still found a way to reach out to people. And we heard from the public what they wanted. And they said, we do not want to have camping in our parks, we do not want it in our residential, and we do not want it around businesses. And so it really didn't leave a whole lot left of where you could find it. So when we decided to go ahead and write this code ordinance and have people be able to camp from late in the evening to early in the morning, we asked our police chief to please give us regular updates on how it's going. And it has been working very well for the officers and for the people that are needing to use that camping for urgent situations. It is not a perfect solution, and I do think that part of the work that I'm doing with the League of Oregon Cities is going to be learning more and more about what we can do as a state to look at these problems across the board, because there are towns like us who have very limited space, and it's not the perfect solution. However, I'm really happy to say that as far as residents coming in, I can count on one hand how many people that I have heard of, so that's usually a good sign when people aren't that upset about it. They haven't reached out to the city, but I did receive a very nice thank you note from the families that lived over on Oak Street, who were very thrilled that there was no longer people camping on their residential areas. So we do know that it's working, but we need to continue to watch the ordinance.
Jessica, is there sustainable funding for running and maintaining the North Bend swimming pool?
Oh, very good question. Thank you for asking that one. I really hope people are paying very close attention to this. We had received we went out for a bond levy a few years ago, and I believe there's just a couple years left on this levy, and that was to help with operations and management for the pool. and then we would be able to continue to do the repairs in the city. But bond levies are only for 5 years. When being a business professor, when I first got on the council and I'm looking at the paper thinking we lose how much a year on running the pool? It's like $300,000. I thought that's not sustainable. What are we going to do? And it got to the point, because we have such limited funding, that we knew that we had to go out for that levy. What concerns me though is that people are going to kind of forget about that, and it just sits over here, and then when we come up to decide if we need to renew the bond levy, they think, my goodness, we've already done that. So the answer is no, that there isn't any sort of long-term funding right now. What we can do is what we have been doing, aggressively go after grants. And there are some, it's difficult to get them for streets, and it's difficult to get them for some of the other infrastructure like wastewater. Pools we might have a little bit better work at. But when we decided to have that levy and really make sure that we had enough funds to really fix some of the infrastructure in the pool, one of the reasons why is we could put that pool in a better position that if a nonprofit organization wanted to take it over, or the school wanted to revisit it, we would be in a better position, because that makes more sense. No pun intended, but pools are very draining, and it is something that is going to continue to cost more and more. But I was very impressed with the residents in North Bend when they came out and they approved that levy, and it just shows you how much that pool means to everybody here. So we're going to have to continue to seek potential grants and then figure out what the next steps is after the levy goes.
Okay, thank you. Same question to you, Harry. Is there sustainable funding for running and maintaining the North Bend pool? Please comment.
I don't believe there is sustainable funding for the pool, because we're dealing with a pool that is older than I am. And I think that would be a great idea to get a nonprofit to take it over. Or I don't like using grants on everything, and it seems like that's the way we're running our city, is by getting grants for this and grants for that. And this money is still our tax dollars. That's where those grants come from. And so maybe getting the public involved on getting volunteers to help out at the pool. My big goal is to get the whole community involved in working with the city to come up with ideas on how to fix the problems that we have. And so if we could get a nonprofit to take it over, and that way you get volunteers to help out with it. But as far as throwing good money after bad and getting more, putting another tax levy out there or something along those lines, I don't agree with that.
Okay, do we have some questions from the audience? We have about a few more minutes here, a little bit more to talk. So this will be you first, okay? Is there a question?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, thank you. Harry, what steps, if any, can the city take to help meet Oregon's climate goals?
That's a very good question. I don't know that the city itself can do a whole lot to reach these goals. That is, I believe, more of a state issue. And then, we can help enforce the rules that they come up with, but as far as coming up with the regulations and all of that, I believe that is a state issue.
Jessica, what steps, if any, can the city take to help meet Oregon's climate goals?
I think we all need to do our part on reducing the impact that we have on the environment. And those could be things that really each individual household does. I love the idea that We have people in the community that want to take a look at doing things like community gardens, and of course recycling is responsible. Is it a situation that North Bend is going to be able to solve on their own? No, but every individual decision that people make can make an impact on that. I'm kind of from the mindset of if we do our part, each person does their part, then it can make a difference. These are situations where the Bay Area Chamber of Commerce and other entities in the community might want to go ahead and get together and take a look at. I don't think this is an issue that the city of North Bend can solve on their own, but any ways that we can look at reduce, reusing, and recycling would be probably the best way to look at that.
Thank you. Are there any more questions from the audience that I should be dealing with? Okay. I guess then I will ask another question that was on here, and it's about the sewer rates. What is your opinion about the sewer rates? And I believe you spoke last, didn't you?
Yes.
Yeah, so we'll start with you.
Okay, all right. And so can you rephrase the question?
What is your opinion about the proposed sewer rate increase? Yeah.
Again, as we spoke tonight about how important housing infrastructure, economic development is, we do need to make sure that we are in a position that North Bend can grow. The old adage is if you don't grow, then you're going to die. And we know that our current situation with what is coming in our general fund isn't even enough to cover the police. And so it's been so incredibly important that's why you have to leverage grants to take the pressure off the general fund. So unless more tax dollars are coming in from residents, if that's not happening, the only other solution is to have economic development. You can't have economic development if you can't grow. And so with the sewer, there comes a point where your infrastructure just is at its end. The life expectancy has come. And so do we wish we could turn back the clock and maybe have increased the sewer rates a little bit at a time? That didn't happen. And so we're at a place now where the city of North Bend has the lowest sewer rates in the entire state. So when people look at the ballot measure, look very closely in all the details that come out actually it came in your water bill like this, because I think one of the important things to look at here is that 39% of our sewer system is between 70 to 100 years old. 70 to 100 years old. That is, that's old. We have capacity concerns on this. The last major upgrade was in 1991. And we're approaching just the system's capacity limits. However, if the residents do end up voting this in, we would still, even if it went up to say $60, which sounds like a lot to go from about $30 to $60 and double that, we would still have the lowest sewer rates in all of the surrounding areas.
Okay, the same question to you, Harry. What is your opinion about the proposed sewer rate increase?
Well, as I mentioned before, I do not agree with the way that this is being done. The increases are way too much, and it is going to take 5 to 7 years to even get enough money to start working on these sewer systems. So we're going to have to look to the state or look for a grant or look for some help to get this done. We cannot just raise the rates and expect to have several $1 million available to us. The other part of this bill that we're getting in the mail is down at the bottom. Read that bottom line. Because at the bottom, after the 5-year plan of raising it $10 a month or a year or whatever it is, it says down there at the bottom that we are going to raise this at 5% annually forever. This is not for 10 years. This is not So if you add that up, in 20 or 30 years, you're gonna have $1,000 a month sewer bill.
Excellent math.
How many people can afford that? And my grandkids won't be able to afford that.
Oh, it's rhetorical.
And I know, granted, I probably won't be here then, but I wouldn't be able to afford that. So
Questions?
we really need to look at that before we vote on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's very distracting when people are talking out loud. I don't know if we're doing something wrong up here, and I'm looking for what's happening. So if you want to talk, go out in the hall. And we have one more question here for these candidates. And this is for you to start. How do you get your news about city affairs and information about the city?
Well, recently I found out that we have a YouTube channel. And so here recently I've been going on there and watching a lot of that. On the public station, I've been getting it there. And then just local news sources. There's not, we used to get a mailer that came out I believe it was every quarter. And I used to get my information there. Because I'm not a Facebook fan or a Facebook user. My wife uses Facebook and so I get some news or information from there. But for the most part, it's just local news and the local media.
Jessica, how do you get your news about city affairs?
I show up on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month and listen to what everybody has to say. But I can share with you how we make sure to disseminate the information out there to everybody else. So, by the way, we have always lots of room here in the council chambers for everybody to come. But I know that not everybody wants to come, so that's, I think, one of the things that I'm probably the most proud of is the different ways that we're able to reach out to everyone. One of my favorites, and if you haven't done this, make a little to-do list today, is go to the City of North Bend, and if our opponent here is learning about the YouTube channel for the first time, this might be something that's new also, you can sign up for city alerts. You can find out everything from new ordinances that are coming out, the agendas being published, if there's street closures, because we know that although the research shows that there's a lot of people out there using the internet, there are, and social media and things like that, some people just want a good old email. So we have that. And then finding those opportunities to disseminate information when I attend, whether it be Rotary, the Chamber of Commerce meetings, ribbon cuttings, having those walks with the mayors, or just coffees. So I've given out my number and contact information. In fact, for those of you who are here today, I've got some information in the hallway too. And having those one-on-one conversations is my favorite part. I really enjoy it. I have people in the community who they'll read something and they're like, that doesn't sound quite right. And they'll actually reach out and give me a call and say, can you explain this a little bit further? And you hire you elect your counselors and your mayors to really dig in and do the work for you so that they can go ahead and give you the information that they've learned in the sheriff. So I would say, when I think about all the ways that we've reached out in the last 4 years, it's pretty amazing that where we've come. And I bet we could come up with more ways as well.
Okay, that concludes the questions that we have. At this time, we have our closing statements from both candidates, and Jessica, you will be first. And this is about 1 minute is what we have.
All right. Well, I just want to say thank you again for everybody who came to listen here tonight in person or who are watching this at another point at home. And I'm here asking for your vote today. I'm asking for you to vote for me to continue to be the mayor of North Bend. We have done some really incredible things, but we have a lot of work ahead to continue to do that, to continue to work, and I want to go ahead and be that person that can move North Bend in the right direction. I have a passion for the city of North Bend, and I will diligently see that we meet the goals and meet what your priorities are. I'm committed to making decisions that are in the best interest of the residents of North Bend, and I will continue to look for opportunities for you to be engaged so that we can continue to make your priorities our priorities. So thank you again for coming here tonight, and I look forward to having longer conversations with each and every one of you.
Jerry, your closing statements?
So I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this and making this available. My goal is to stop the crazy spending in North Bend and get everybody that we can involved in making decisions for the city. We need a venue that is advertised and so that everybody knows when it is, where it is, at a convenient time, when on a weekend, on days when people aren't working, because I think that's the hardest time for anybody to get in and voice their opinions, is because most people here work. And so it's hard to get into these and get your voice heard. So if we can do that, move the city forward, get everybody involved, I think we'll have a better city.
Thank you. Did we forget anything that I was supposed to do?
No.
Okay. We're going to take a break then.